You know, as we learn more about these players and as we see their stories being told, we get to see things like respect bands. And I think that if you follow Adzikov on Twitter, he loves King Bran. He's tweeted about how he thanked King Bran for this help to get to the top, to get into the Open here. And TailBot's taken note of that, banning it right there. The first non-Henselt ban as Adzikov's getting it started here, playing Dagon Nova variant, which I actually personally enjoy. Starting off with Mailorn into the Arcaspore, which is a pretty good way to set up the engine. And you know, Mailorn is very good. Dagon a little bit more of a slower start, helps that opening tempo here. And because he's playing Woodland Spirit and Dagon, he should have no problem getting the Foglets out. And yeah, I mean, I do like the Nova variant because generally the Nova variant includes Barbagazi, which the carryover is super good, not just because it's carryover. Obviously, you have more chances to proc the Death Wish, and you can combat carryover a little bit more, especially when you're playing against something like Skellige.
Yeah, I'm personally a bigger fan of the non-Nova variant due to the easier time you have mulliganing your cards, especially having access to triple Griffin, which is very, very solid. But the fact that he has Barbagazi is a very good point and can become quite prevalent in this matchup, as Old Gear represents 5 strength carryover, but Morvark can be disrupted. Morvark can be hit, it can be damaged, it can be taken down, and every time it comes back, it will be weaker. But we also see Ceres in TailBot's lineup here, so he's bringing the standard package.
Yeah.
You know, the good old school Morvark Old Gear Ceres combination, and I think he's going to go for that now.
You know, unlike some of the players like Demorcus and Dutch Boy who practiced together and played together and brought very similar, if not exact, same deck lists, we have TailBot and Adzikov bringing same lineup, but actually a lot of subtle differences between each of their decks. You know, on Adzikov's side, Bran is not playing like stuff like Wolfsbane, and on TailBot's side, is not playing stuff like Siri Nova. So we're going to see a little bit of variations between two of the best players. Even though they agree on leader choice and they agree on the approach, there are some differences here. As Adzikov's going to go for the pass here, we get started here in round 3 of the Gwent Open quarterfinals.
I like this pass a lot. This is Adzikov trying to avoid the carryover game from TailBot by making him drop down a card himself. He still has sources of weather. He still has his own Dagon there. He has gone for the Will of Spirit, but he still has his own leader, which means that he can still threaten in a long round. And by doing this, he denies the Morvark Old Gear pressure to basically take away a card from Adzikov and not letting him recuperate it, as we do see TailBot running Oderic as well. So I'm a big fan of this. Did
he just go down and tie the game? That's not what he wanted to do. I am so sure about that.
Oh, that has to be a miss.
That's rough. That's rough. Now, is that his best possible play?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's huge.
I was so focused on what you were saying, Mogwai, I just realized that those are 2 white numbers there, 27 and 27. Down a card for TailBot. That Arcaspore jumped over and just changed some things.
That's so awful for him.
TailBot's stone face, though, doesn't even look like it bothered him.
He has to go for the strengthening. He's hovering over the talisman because he wants to strengthen the unit to at least get a little bit of carryover strength going on. But he's going to go down -2 against a deck with weather. This is very threatening. A deck with Siri Nova. That is devastating. That is so good for Adzikov right now. That's the best scenario he could have hoped for. That pass was absolutely lethal. It puts TailBot in a very precarious position here.
A little bit tougher here for TailBot now, being down 2 cards. Both obviously fantastic players. They'll take advantage of any situation here. Easy mulligan here. The Foglet's going to go away, and on TailBot's side, maybe just a little bit tougher. Probably going to go, yeah, because he's going to have a lot of chances to get that Berserker Marauder out. He has the Spirit Maiden as well, Reconnaissance. And now TailBot, at least with the carryover and Spy in hand, at least he can get a card back here, as it looks like Adzikov does not have any way of procuring the Frightener outside of Gels. So it's possible that TailBot can get a little bit of this back, but he's definitely playing from behind for the rest of this match.
Yeah, TailBot has to put some insane pressure on Adzikov here. He has not 1 but 2 cards to recuperate, and because Adzikov is running a Siri Nova variant and he does have it in hand, he has a very powerful short round as well alongside carryover. Obviously sequencing is extremely key here, but what Adzikov has to try to aim to do this round is try to find the proper setup for the weather without getting vulnerable to a pass afterwards and leading to a still relatively long round 3 in which he could really use that weather. And he also has to time the Barbagazi and try to get the best out of his carryover. And of course, retain his card advantage. But TailBot relentless here, getting Queen Ceres out and starting off with a 30 strength point play. But Adzikov still has 3 cards to play to go even with TailBot. So it may seem like a very monstrous lead, but it's not as much. And this fog, you know, you have to go for the fog here, especially when you're so far behind. You have to ensure that you get that value. You have to ensure that, you know, you get the most value out of the fog, basically.
Yeah, you might as well develop, you know, you can afford it, especially considering the card advantage right now.
Yeah.
And developing the fog right now in a round that is likely going to be long enough that you're going to get the value out of Dagon to make sense. Plus, you get the foglet out of the deck. Now the foglets are done with. And from here, I mean, Adzikov can establish a little bit of carryover of his own, or perhaps load the graveyard up for, well, there is no Slizzard in his hand at the moment. But his hand is fantastic, honestly. Like, having Nova and card advantage at this point, Skellige does have a pretty good short round itself, but especially if you're able to proc Ceres in round 3 on top of this. But it's going to be tough. I mean, TailBot's looking to do 2 things. He's looking to develop Udalryk and also just push as many points as possible to force Adzikov to play more, because Dagon is a little on the slower side. This is, yeah, it's going to go for the doubt here. 2 Rot Fiends in hand, not a really favorable row for it.
Down goes the She Troll, getting Dao out of the deck and proccing its Death Wish for a 15 point play, which is pretty decent, but not overly crazy for a silver card. It does fill up the graveyard, though, for the Brewish Ritual, if need be.
Yeah.
So it's a nice play right there, as we see double Rot Fiend in Adzikov's hand. TailBot right now is positioning very evenly across the 3 rows, so he's not playing overly into Rot Fiend. So considering he knows, like, right off the bat from the beginning of the match, you can see 16 cards in his deck, so he knows he's playing against a Nova variant of Death Wish. Rot Fiend is more likely to be a card in that type of variant due to the restrictions you have on deck building. So TailBot very efficiently distributing his units and not becoming overly vulnerable to that, because it's a well-known combo, especially because some players, not even in Nova variants, some players actually do opt to go for the She Troll Rot Fiend combo for the late portion of a long round here, as TailBot is sitting at a 34-point lead over Adzikov. But Adzikov has 3 cards to play to get there. So, and that fog ticking is gonna, represent more and more value as the round goes on. And he has quite some power plays here, setting up the Griffin with the Dao. And yeah, that could be really strong. Griffin into Cyclops can definitely close the gap and actually put him ahead here, which is very dangerous for TailBot.
Yeah. I think the Rot Fiends in hand, that's definitely not what you want. You don't want both Rot Fiends in hand. They're just a little bit too slow on their own. Rot Fiends only came into fashion with She Troll and Nova variants of Death Wish. And while it's fine to use them for Brewis if you have nothing else, at this point, Adzikov needing to get ahead here, needing to win this round, a little bit on the slow side. You can make a case for playing Brewis a little bit earlier because you have the card advantage and Nova in hand. Getting the Archospore back out, and you have you Griffins and Cyclops as well. You can probably get a little bit more tempo that way. It's so many ways to take care of the Death Wish here with the Barbagazi inclusion. Yeah, I love Barbagazi in the Nova variant here. But yeah, I think in all of these situations, there's just a lot of ways to get ahead for Adzikov, but TailBot really is making this. I think he just needs to get as many points as possible and still be able to play Udalryk, or else he's going to lose out to Nova in the end.
Indeed, we see the Griffin being dropped out on the range row, proccing the Dao for 17 points, putting Adzikov only 13 points behind TailBot with 2 cards over him. You are correct. The Rot Fiends are sort of a liability here, especially because he does have the ways to proc Dao, so he doesn't really need them. They don't really represent. They kind of like disrupt his tempo a little bit. But we do see the Spy go down for TailBot right here, and there is Triss Telekinesis, one of the new cards being introduced as of, in a 10-card pack when Arena was released, and a card that has seen a lot of competitive play due to its ability to synergize really well with key bronze specials such as Reconnaissance. We also see it in Alchemy. We see it as a very vital component of the most recent Hensel machine decks. And down goes Barbagazi. He's completely ignoring the Rot Fiends. He's trying to avoid playing them even. So that could leave him a little bit vulnerable if TailBot would opt to push more. But how far can TailBot actually push here, as he has 2 reses in hand and is really running out of options? I don't believe this is tight for him, and he's established carryover. That's a great Coral target, though. So
it's a great Coral target. His Freya now has a Marauder in the graveyard due to the discard on Udalryk. So he does have pretty big plays left here. Probably coraling the Probably Coiling the carryover is okay, unless
Yeah.
he wants to save Coral for later to stop a Deathwish unit and the procs for like a Dow, maybe after Brewis brings it back. It looks like he's going to take
like it.
kind of what you were saying, is going to just get rid of the carryover and just keep pushing a little bit here, trying to bleed out cards. And here comes the Rot Fiends. I think this is probably fine, because at this point, Adzikov can afford to play it. Udalric has given him a little bit more, some more points. The gap is not really that apparent. And it's interesting, he played it, he played it on a road that is likely going to get, I think he probably would want to play that on the back
he
row.
wants to stay on the road to threaten the Morkvarg. What's Adzikov trying to do here is he's trying to push him to a point so he can deny Ceres. Morkvarg and Olgierd will proc Ceres twice. TailBot recognizes this and passes, because he wants to make sure that he can get Ceres out. If that Rotfiend was a great bluff by Adzikov. He's like, yeah, you want to keep on pushing? I'm going to deny your Morkvarg, and I'm going to make it difficult for you. I'm going to make sure that you can't ensure Ceres in round 3, which is what you want. So very solid pass there by TailBot, but kind of provoked there by Adzikov. Very excited to see these two finally go at it, and it's also exciting to see like how the tides have turned. You know, in a few seasons ago, Adzikov would have been the clear favorite, as he was always number 1 while TailBot was number 2 on the pro ladder. But now it's the other way around. TailBot getting the more credentials and just on fire lately in tournaments, in the pro ladder, just everywhere, being so dominant. So it's, you know, this has been a long time in the makings. This matchup right here.
And he missed Gwent Open 3, so he's back in force here. He's here for Gwent Open number 4, and he's going to be a challenger as well. Going to eat that 14-point board. That Osrail is huge right there.
Capitalizing.
Yeah, the strength and bear here. And I mean, Adzikov has to do, I mean, look at TailBot's hand. I mean, Ceres was not really at risk here. Restore Freya, Sigurdrifa, plus Triss Telekinesis for that extra oomph. But I mean, is it going to match up with Sirinova being down a card? It's really tough to say just off the top of my head right here, but I think Sirinova is going to make the difference by far.
Yeah, Sirinova, he's already got a tremendous lead, and Coral has already gone down to deny the carryover. Coral would be monstrous on this Osro, but he no longer has the answer for it, which is so important. The fact that Adzikov was able to capitalize on that talisman play in the early portions of the match, when TailBot was forced to go down -2, really puts him in an awkward spot here. The second Rotfiend is not really going to represent much, but at least it does synergize with the Cyclops right there, and that Gels also represents a lot of value, and of course Nova as a potent finisher. Right now, both players have the same amount of cards in hand, and Adzikov does have a slight lead, but he's just representing so much strength. Ceres will come out soon, though.
I'm looking at Gels. I'm actually not even sure what's being pulled here with Gels. If I mean, we did see.
It's a silver, right? No.
Oh, did he mulligan away Bruce?
No, wait, no. TailBot doesn't run. No, sorry, Adzikov. Yeah, it's Brewis.
Yeah, he
Brewis.
It's Brewis. Because he had it in his hand earlier.
Yeah,
I was just looking down at the deck list,
Yeah,
just making sure that it wasn't just like Roach or something. But yeah, with Frightener there, definitely not necessary at this point. Probably going to be, now he can proc one of these Death Wishes, so he's going to put the Dow on, maybe just considering Rotfiend.
That means
for a
Rotfiend is
second.
going to be an 8-point play.
Yeah, Rotfiend is going to be an 8-point play, which definitely, you know, the fact that TailBot was able to play the Spy in round 2 and still take the round, and the fact that he has a pretty strong hand right now, Rotfiend being a slow play, is important. You know,
yeah, because we haven't seen Ceres out yet. We have not seen Ceres.
Ceres is going to make this even spicy here. And the Scal play.
Yeah.
Oh man. What
Look
a
at that swing, boy. Look at that swing. 20 points in the lead for TailBot. This changes things.
This is a little closer than I anticipated.
This changes things a lot. TailBot has 2 very powerful plays at the end with Cyclops and Nova, but this Rotfiend just being 8 points, God, that hurts. Especially considering the fact that he's down by a lot after playing this Rotfiend. He's 20 points behind.
Yeah, this is pretty nasty here, and Triss Telekinesis can get some work done here. As TailBot is running Bone Talisman and Reconnaissance, so that's an easy choice. As well as there's nothing that's going to combat that on Adzikov's side, as there are no bronze specials whatsoever. So it's going to be exactly what TailBot wants.
This Triss is always very strong, and in this case he's going to go for a Reconnaissance. No, sorry, for a
You're
bone.
going to bring back one of the bears here.
Yeah, a Bone Talisman onto the Marauder. Yeah, sorry. Which is 21 points.
Oh, man.
21 points. The Archospores are proccing though, and now we're going to see 2 very big boy plays. Cyclops onto Dow for 19 points. Gonna hit the Trish right there. Not gonna power any other Marauder right there. Very nice targeting there. He is 12 points behind though. This is other Marauder. How big is he gonna be?
We serve her who is virgin.
Oh, wow.
16 points, 16 points, 16 points. TailBot's got him.
I wouldn't have put TailBot to take that one earlier on in this game. That was insane.
Wow. By 2 points.
First game of this round, not disappointing.
That's nuts. After going down -2, he got him back. That is insane.
Behold the power.
How do you win that?
Behold the power of Skellige there. Honestly, like when I was looking at Nova in the card up, that was,
It's crazy.
The mathematicians in the chat probably figured that one out pretty quick, but honestly, that looked favored for Adzikov from the very, very beginning of that game. And, you know, Skellige's just got so much power, plus the Osriel getting the 14-point bear, that could have gone even worse. But it was so close. 2-pointer, TailBot's going to go up there and put Bran on the trophy shelf, as Adzikov is going to have some work cut out for him. He does have Henselt for the red coin, which is good, of course, and he's got his own flavor of Dagon along with Alchemy to play here. TailBot's going to come in with his own Alchemy list, and of course he has his own Dagon list as well. Like I said, subtle differences between these lists and these players, even though the lineup is the same. And honestly, some really great plays from both players there, but ultimately TailBot's going to take that one.
See, the price of Nova, that raw fiend is what cost Adzikov in the end. It's a very, if you don't get the Death Wish proc out of it, it's just a very unreliable card in my opinion, and it made him, like, the fact that he lost by 2 points, if that was like some sort of like bronze card that reached, you know, the standard 12 value, he would have been able to eke out the victory, but again, you gotta play a price for Nova, and Adzikov paid it with a round 1 loss. As he goes into round 2, both players going with Dagon here. One of them is one of them is Nova, while the other one is not. Let's see which one of these two variants prevails in this matchup. I'm actually very intrigued about this because we're sort of divided in this. I'm a big believer in the, I'm a big fan basically of the non-Nova variant.
Yeah.
I started ever since I watched a very good Dagon player, in my opinion, who's good friends with you, Joe Snow.
Joe Snow's fantastic. He definitely vouches for non-Nova.
Yeah, and he started playing like a non-Nova list. I just wasn't happy with the results with my Nova, and I switched to his variant, and I was very happy with the results. The mulligans are much smoother. Yes, you lose that late game power a little bit, but I feel like the archetype does have other ways to make those big swingy plays, especially with cards like Osriel, right? So I don't know, I'm a big fan of this just because of mulligans, but it is true that in this particular mirror, Adzikov does have the carryover, which he's going to go for right now.
And that's one of the reasons why I like the Nova variant, because it's an easy excuse to put in the Barbagazi for the carryover. More ways to proc Death Wish, more ways to get value out of that Death Wish as well. You know, you bait removal on top of that. Plus, if you're on the ladder, you don't like War Dancer, you can usually outpower that as well. With Skellige, it's a little bit harder to power carryover, especially with it being answered. But generally, I mean, the Barbagazi also enables Slizzard. It makes it easier to play Slizzard. I know sometimes you drop Slizzard for reconnaissance these days. So I like that. However, the Rot Fiend, I mean, it doesn't look good right now. In this situation, we just saw the Rot Fiend potentially cost Adzikov the game there, as he just wasn't able to get the points out, even though he had the advantage. And that was due to the fact that he had the 2 Rot Fiends in hand when he really needed to get one of them out of his hand for something a little bit higher value. So I think it's a really good conversation piece. I've talked a lot about Dagon Deathwish. I've played a fair amount myself. Yeah. Now we're watching two of the best players, play this deck, their own variants of it, 2 different variants. So there's going to be some discussion to have about this as well.
Yeah, but it's nice to see like a particular archetype like go very different ways. It gives variety to deck building, which is always great. And you know, I've seen people who are very adamant about one variant or the other. But it is true that in this particular matchup, TailBot has information as well. He knows that this is a Nova list, and he knows that Adzikov is running double Rot Fiend. What does this mean? This means that he can just focus completely on doing his best to play around Rot Fiend value. So we're going to see him try to stack as much as he can in different rows. As Gels goes down and does pick the Frightener and draws into the Brewis that he plays on top. Very, very solid Gels there for Adzikov.
Another thing I like about, when you're talking about Rot Fiend, of course, and you know how TailBot can play around this kind of thing, one of the reasons why playing Rot Fiend and playing Shoot Troll is very good, if you're running the double Foglet and Fog, is that you force your opponent into a roast deck because they don't really want to play into the weather necessarily. So you end up getting more value out of Shoot Troll and Rot Fiend. Of course, in this situation, I think both of these players are going to be maximizing all of their value and trying to diminish the value on either side. So it's less likely that that would happen. But in this case, like already right here, Sheetroll into Rodfiend is going to get the same value. It's going to get the maximum value that you can get from like a Griffin. Like you look at this like it's a 19-point play. It's not bad.
Yeah.
But of course, developing the Fog in this situation for the long round, and he's probably going for the long round here, developing the Fog, getting the Fog lit out. He has Vadermaker as well. And he has Dagon on top of that, just to ensure he gets that Fog lit out. Some people run 2 Fogs. Woodland Spirit. Both of these players believe in Woodland Spirit here, so you're going to see that there. But that spot could be flex if you want to lean a little bit more on Vadermaker. Gives more control options though if you wanted to use it for the Thunder option to remove an engine.
Something important to note here is that TailBot does not have access to his Silver Spy. There is no Frightener in hand, and there's no way to tutor it either, which means that Adzikov is pretty free to push as much as he wants, and this is very dangerous when he has Siri Nova in his hand. If Adzikov is aware that his opponent doesn't have the Frightener and he keeps on pushing and makes the round as short as possible, he will very easily overpower TailBot with his gold card right there. So this is going to be very intriguing to see just when Adzikov is going to pass. Because even though TailBot doesn't go for Frightener right off the bat, that doesn't mean he doesn't have it. It just means that he's probably waiting for the right opening to go for it. So Adzikov has to kind of reach the conclusion on his own that his opponent is lacks the spy in hand, and he's going to have to do that without our screen visual or psychic powers right here. He has to figure that out on his own, and that's what great players do.
And I mean, like the tempo is very similar. They both generate tempo kind of in the same style and roughly at the same pace. I actually think Adzikov might be playing Sheetroll or Vergen next turn because he's probably not going to get a better chance here. He's going to he can get the 17 value off of it, get the Rodfiend in the graveyard on top of that as well. As TailBot's going to go ahead and just remove this opportunity for tempo here by putting the Dow into the Shadow Realm, banishing it with the Mandrake, denying it from a res from Brewis, denying its proc with a Griffin or a Cyclops or the Barbagazi, and all the different ways that Adzikov can proc it. Just giving a little bit of respect to that there. When you deny the Death Wish, it's much harder to get value, especially in the mirror when you are getting value out of your Death Wishes. But I think that this is probably, it's a decent, of course it's Adzikov's choice to potentially pass as well, but I think that you probably want to go for Sheetroll here.
I think, while Sheetroll does represent a good swing here, those Archospores are constantly moving, and he does have a chance to obtain that value eventually throughout this match, especially with 2 Archospores jumping around all the time. I like this Cyclops play as it does deny. This is a good indicator of the fact that Adzikov is going to push deep. Again, because he has Siri Nova. He wants the round to be as short as possible. He has no true need to viciously out-tempo TailBot and sacrifice a play that could potentially be stronger later down the line, if he's willing to just push him as hard as possible, anyways, right? So I expect Adzikov to make strong, good plays, but not sacrifice his sequence in the process. I think we're going to be looking at that Sheetroll being preserved for the very end, and him just aiming to really bleed TailBot here and put him in a bad spot. And because these plays are good enough on their own, he's also denying the Frightener response from TailBot without him just responding with a pass of his own. So I think it's about time TailBot goes for his own weather. Otherwise, he's going to be losing a lot of value from it. Yeah,
Dagon's the play here for sure. You need to just kind of outpace your opponent, or at least keep pace with your opponent here.
Yeah.
And when Adzikov put the Archospore in the graveyard, he did enable Slizzard here, which is one of the reasons why Cyclops and Barbagazi work so well with Slizzards here. So it's a little bit harder in some cases, especially with the Nova list. If you're leaning on Brewis for something like a double Archospore in a longer round 3, you wouldn't necessarily do this because you want them in the graveyard. But I don't think we're going to have a long round 3 in this situation. And also, playing the Dow is also good with just a single Archospore as well, especially if you're trying to source a Griffin, as Adzikov's deck's getting thinner and thinner here. And he still has his Dagon preserved, and of course the option for Vadermaker as well. So it depends on, Adzikov's still in the driver's seat here. He's trying to just get into a good enough position here to pass as he's waiting for TailBot to make the next move here. Another possibly great option for Sheetroll as he plays his own Sheetroll here. Oh, you absolutely Sheetroll this row.
I like this play. This is just a nice 15-point play for TailBot right here, as he has his Rot Fiend in hand, and he's not running a Siri Nova variant, so that Rot Fiend is exclusively there to counter, to combine with the Sheet Troll. So because he has it in hand, he just went for the Sheet Troll there to thin through his deck, as drawing Dow in a short round 3 can be quite devastating, and providing himself with a nice 15-point play that can enable him to, get ahead there, as Adzikov has, decided this is the right moment to go for the Fog onto the back. It's very smart to Fog a row with Dow in it, even if Dow is the only unit there. When it goes down, it's also, like, if TailBot wants to proc its Death Wish, he's gonna be generating more units in that row anyway. So there's always gonna be value there for the Fog to tick on. And the timing is very, very right here, I believe. This is gonna make it so that Adzikov still has the advantage when it comes to residual damage, and can really try to work. Right now, Adzikov just wants a short round. But on top of that, if he can try to get a short round and also get an extra card out of TailBot, that would be even better. And he's working for that with these two Fogs. TailBot is definitely being pressured here quite a bit. Down goes the Slizzard.
He's going to get a Dow of his own here, or another Dow, I guess, on his board. I'm trying to remember if TailBot played Weather in round 1. I'm already a little foggy on that. If the Foglet is not in TailBot's deck, I mean, you see the Slizzard being played there, but there is only a single Slizzard here. Has 3 Fogs going down here.
Damn,
this is really going to help
nasty.
Adzikov bleed. There is actually one Slizzard in TailBot's deck, so that marching orders could, well, that's, since Sheet Troll was already played, since the Slizzard was already played, and I believe the Foglet might be out there, that moves next to Mailorn or the Dow, so it's not going to be pulling another Slizzard here.
I love this Slizzard played from TailBot, by the way, because it was a way of him saying, yeah, I can divert all my Death Wish triggering onto the range row and let that Dow just absorb the Fog damage and not let the value go crazy there. But Adzikov responding with his third source of Fog. This is very, very tough for TailBot here. Going with the Cyclops play for 19 points. Getting him 18 points ahead of Adzikov, making it hard for him to come back. But this Rot Fiend is actually not looking that bad at all now. Like, Rot Fiend onto the range or the melee row is representing quite a bit, but the problem is he doesn't really have ways to proc it. He can just drop it there just to scare him a little bit, but I don't see any ways to proc that right now.
It's true. I mean, I keep on calling for Sheet Troll. Like, this is the turn for Sheet Troll, and still Adzikov holding on to it here. Yeah. No way to proc it necessarily. I mean, he could be playing it just to make him a little nervous, but since Adzikov is the one in the pass position, TailBot's got to stay in it anyway. So, I mean, it's even better now, potentially, the Sheet Troll. I mean, it's possible he's just waiting for it to get even better and better to get the maximum value because, maybe no future units are going to be played into the siege row, and these rows are getting quite large deep into this round 2 here. So, Sheet Troll will be played eventually. It's just Adzikov just trying, both of these players trying to get just as much value as possible, playing the value game against each other.
Will we see the Griffin drop down here for TailBot? This is the last turn you can go for it. Onto that Dow in the back. Otherwise, he will lose the proc, and then that'll mean that he's looking to combine it with Rot Fiend. Like, TailBot has very, very, this is a very intense turn for him because it's his last turn to Griffin that. And he also has to debate whether to go for the Monster's Nest onto the Barber Gazi, but he's going to drop the Rot Fiend on the range row. Range row? Yep. Range row Rot Fiend right there. Which means he's lost his opportunity to Griffin the Dow in the back, but that also means that he can Griffin the Rot Fiend in the range row for a total of, it's the same value basically. It's 17 points.
It is the same. At this point, it's tough here. Like, this is the cool thing about the Death Wish deck in general is just like so many units synergize with each other. There's a lot of different paths to victory you can take.
Melee row. Yep. Gonna kill the Archospore in the process. Nice timing right there with the Sheet Troll, putting him 3 points ahead, and the Fog ticks, proccing the Dow in the back as well. TailBot is still tied with him after the Death Wish goes off. But look at Adzikov's late game. That Ozril, that Brewis, that Siri Nova. That's so much strength here. And oh wow, TailBot being
the
forced.
Brewis out in round 2.
Oh man, that's tough. He does have Monster's Nest, though, so if Adzikov keeps on pushing and TailBot has a secure enough gap, he can go for the carryover play here, which could mean quite a bit, but the shorter the round, the more impactful that immediate 22 strength point swing Nova provides will be. So will Adzikov pass here? He is going to do that. Okay.
I mean, you have to put your opponent on what they could possibly have to beat you. Like, you're thinking maybe Osrail. You're thinking of all the biggest plays you possibly have. Maybe Osrail, maybe a Griffin into Dow. Brewis has been played now, so that's a big piece of information and a lot of stuff that maybe TailBot can't lean on. But there are still some things that haven't been seen yet at this point. I think this is a fine pass because Osrail is representing a ton of points. Nova, obviously the 22 points, and Brewis, if you're gonna stay in it and you're gonna go into a round, at least the Arcaspore. The Arcaspore Resurrection with Brewis, you get a fair amount of value at that point after 4 turns that you're fine doing that. Unless, of course, there is some way to proc a Dow, like a Barbagazi, you might go ahead and just res Dow Arcaspore. But now the Griffin is even better than that. So I think he's still going to think about resing Dow Arcaspore. He has to. He has to because he slizzard the Arcaspore earlier. So that is the play. Double Griffin in hand. I think now, what is Marching Orders pulling? I think it actually might end up being a Dow, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it has to be Dow. It has to be Dow. 2 Foggless went to the graveyard. Slizzer went to the graveyard as well. So did the Sheetro. It 100% has to be Dow, I believe. Pretty sure. Like, he hasn't played 3 Dows. So he has to play the Marching Orders
did
onto
he
the
not
Dow.
play 2 and Slizzard 1? Actually, you know what? I think Marching Orders is a little bit up in the air for him. Oh, wow. You know what? It's possible that it was Mailorn with nothing to pull. TailBot just going to save us a little bit of time there. I think that he may have had a dead card in his hand.
Yeah, he was over. Yeah, you're right. He slizzard the Dow, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and losing Brewis in round 2 is pretty huge there.
Yeah, all right, there you go. Adzikov taking it back, 1-1. Adzikov with monsters, with the monsters win in the pocket. While TailBot has the King Bran, one as well.
Yeah.
So we're seeing Dagon and Jan Calvate for TailBot versus Adzikov's Jan Calvate and Hensel. The first time we're going to witness this leader today, as it has been banned in every single other matchup. Now, I want to bring up something that Adzikov told me today. I was just hanging out after casting our first game, and he stopped by and he said, because we did do a poll in which we did some predictions, right? And Top Deck released them. And he said, I see you predicted TailBot. And he told me that it was a big mistake. So he seemed pretty confident, and he said that he was going to prove me wrong. And I'm actually very excited to see Adzikov. So, I think this last tournament really did that for his confidence as well. He had such an amazing performance making it to the finals against Super JJ. And look at that smile right there. Here we go.
I mean, I think I picked TailBot as well, but I honestly just flipped a coin on that one. It's tough. I mean, I do like the Nova list, and I think as we see Adzikov win the mirror there with Nova, we can settle the argument altogether that Nova list is better. And I won. But really, Adzikov is the winner, obviously. But I mean, this is interesting. We get to see Hensel for the first time today, possibly the only time today. So we're going to see a lot of winches. We're going to see a little bit of Bloody Baron, which is kind of a new. It's a newer. Bloody Baron was not around earlier on in the year with the Henselt list. So Selkirk is now in the meta again as well. So we're seeing a lot of removal. Reinforced ballistas coming into flavor outside of the standard ballista. More ways to remove. No gold weather in this situation here. I think that may have fallen out of favor. But with the Scorch, Henselt, a lot of the ways you can do some removal, plus the winch giving you that extra little boost. But let's talk about the Henselt list. No Nenica in the Henselt list either. So we're not going to see the rain of battering rams we saw in Gwent Open number 3. But what we are going to see is an open pass against TailBot's Calvin.
Let's talk about that Guardian, though.
That's nice. That's nice.
That is a very, very interesting tech choice by TailBot. A Guardian has not seen much play at all after let's call it nerf, because it got nerfed. Well, it got redesigned. It used to have Death Wish of spawning 2 lesser Guardians, but now it has a deploy effect, or the effect of once it hits the board, of adding a lesser Guardian onto the top of your opponent's deck. The Lesser Guardian is, as you can see right there, a 6-point bronze card, and that makes his mulligan very, that he's stuck with that. Now, I love this dry pass. Dry passing against Alchemy Nilfgaard is a very viable strategy. Why? Because Alchemy Nilfgaard has to thin through its deck. It has to go for John Calvade, especially if you're running Kahir, as we see TailBot right there. There's a lot you have to play through your deck. You have to set up your graveyard so you can get value out of your ointments as well. You basically have to play into a round. You can't just double dry pass and play round 3 with Alchemy Nilfgaard. That's just an auto loss. Adzikov acknowledges this, so the fact that he's going first enables him to dry pass right there, and he can just play into this next round. He does have his own spy, but unfortunately he does not have access to it.
Nope.
No
he does
Taller
have
in hand.
Taller. No way to get it. No Alzur's double cross here for Adzikov. He was able to get Ronvid out, which is going to be beneficial later on. But now, I mean, Scorch is blocked in this situation unless some of the Mahaka Mail goes crazy. Scorch is blocked for this round, potentially. And then TailBot needs to control the machines, but I don't know if you can. I don't know how much you can control with the winch here. It's interesting. I wonder how Adzikov is going to be playing Hansel here, knowing that this is a really strong control deck. Alchemy obviously is kind of put control deck in the spotlight, whereas in previous metas, tempo was king. Now, there's just so much tempo you can get out of control here as TailBot plays the card that gives you that awesome control and tempo, the Viper Witcher here, following Letho's lead. Adzikov can afford to play the 6-point vanilla Letho Guardian here, so he might as well go for it at this point.
This Cantarella play and his inability to react to it with his own Taller makes it so that it's very unlikely for Adzikov to get the Dun banner out of his deck, which is definitely going to mess up his draws potentially, especially if he doesn't draw it immediately and he can blacklist it, because it may take away from his ability to mulligan, as he could very well just fall into a dead Dun banner in a short round 3, which would be very devastating. We do see the Bloody Baron at the very right-hand side of Adzikov's hand, and that card was featured onto the screen not too long ago. For newer players watching, or for players who are getting back into Gwent, Bloody Baron has seen I wouldn't say a research. Basically, he stepped onto the competitive scene as not too long ago, because normally a lot of Henso lists would run Viltrameth instead. But Bloody Baron has come into the scene and has really made quite the splash there, because it is a win condition for this archetype. It actually does reach significant value, even though on paper it doesn't seem so. Like in a lot of matchups, even in Alchemy Nilfgaard, it's actually pretty easy to bring Bloody Baron above 15, and even 20, or even beyond. And in specific matchups in which your opponent goes very swarmy, like for example Elf Swarm, Bloody Baron can overpower a Siri Nova. So it is a very strong resource for Henselt, which also enables Henselt to efficiently dry pass round 1 if they do go first, because they're not vulnerable, like in other cases, to being bled and having too short of a round in which they just don't have enough power, as they always have that big beefy win con, their own Nova per se, in Bloody Baron. And I think it's a really cool card. Like, I'm happy that it's seeing a lot of play and it's actually very competitively viable, as we see the thick Calvate play by TailBot right there.
Yeah, I mean, this obviously makes K here. He starts at 12 points and goes up from there, especially if Roach is involved. So I think that Roach is not involved. However, Roach is not in TailBot's list, which is, Alchemy has featured Roach a lot. So this is, an interesting change here, making a spot for the Guardian, which, like you said, hasn't seen a lot of play lately. And yeah, TailBot's just going to keep pushing along here, trying to at least make his round 3, do a little bit of setup here, do a little setup with his graveyard. Meanwhile, Adzikov is looking to destroy as many things as possible, somehow, some way. Battering Ram is going to get things started here, but as these units get further and further out of removal range, it's going to get harder and harder for Adzikov. And you saw him hovering over Baron, a little bit frustrated. I think he knows that it's going to be a little bit tougher to get Baron. I mean, no matter where you live, you're happy to get Baron a legal drinking age. That's what I always say. So, somewhere in the high teens to low 20s, as we see a pass here.
That's a very interesting pass right here. Perhaps, obviously, TailBot doesn't know that Adzikov does not have Taller in hand. And the thing is, Adzikov really can't afford to mulligan here.
Oh,
it's
very
such a
risky mulligan here. Those Dun banner. Oh, he's praying.
He's praying.
Bless RNG,
he's going
bless
for it.
RNG.
Oh, living on the limit.
He's clicking it.
Okay. She dodged a bullet there. Jesus.
I love moments like that. You can only get that stuff from live Gwent. Beautiful. Beautiful. And we saw the done banner earlier as well. You know, sometimes things don't go your way. So that
especially with that feature.
It's pretty big. It's pretty big, yeah, especially with that feature.
Oh man, I don't know if I honestly do not know if I would have had the cojones to do that. So.
That is the most exciting mulligan of the day, I think. Adzikov definitely helped that out here. As we're going to get things started here with Winch, he's looking for a Hensel play at this point. He's probably going to attempt as much removal as possible. Battering Ram is good because he does have 2 still in the deck, plus he has the Battering Ram in hand for insurance. Plus, he does, I don't believe he played any of the Reinforced Ballistas, so he has a lot of opportunities to get value out of Hensel, and I don't know if TailBot can answer all of them.
Yeah, I think that, I'm pretty sure that Reinforcements is going to target the 3rd Siege Master as well. So he has a pretty solid looking hand, honestly. We're also going to potentially see Triss Marigold onto a Winch. So that's another chance that he has to enable his Henselt as well. And we see 2 Viper Witchers and an Ointment in TailBot's hand. So he does have access to 3 Viper Witchers, but that's just 3. Like, as long as they don't get taken down and they can't be recycled through Ointments, that's 3 shots TailBot has to disrupt that. As we see the Gavar Novice onto the Swallow Potion for 12 points.
It's interesting here. I think that in this situation, TailBot probably sees no concern about the Battering Ram because Hensel playing Battering Ram now would just be, there was not enough units on the board to get like really great value here. Buffing the Vikovara Novice is making a unit harder to remove, and Adzikov really wants to remove units. Baron doesn't have a single buff on him yet. So it's just, you know, looking, Adzikov obviously wants to get as much value as possible here, but he also needs to actually establish a situation where Henselt's going to be able to really push here. He's looking for, you know, a really good Scorch. He kind of has one now, but it can be even better than this.
Sounds like it says Pokemon Vort. Is that just me?
That's the scene.
I'm
it's
obsessed
actually,
with Pokemon.
It's right out of Witcher 2 at the very beginning of the first act.
Yeah, that's just my.
Actually, Triss Butterfly spell comes from that line right there. Oh. Little trivia for you. As the Winch is played there.
I always learn something with you, Dane. Thank you.
No, I pay close attention to the insignificant things sometimes. So Reinforced Ballista on board, which is at least, you know, he's trying to get something removed here. Potentially bringing down a target. I mean, he's always going to be playing under Scorch, so, and Calvin is going to be coming in at 11 here. But there's, again, he's stuck without Taller. That's kind of really unfortunate he wasn't able to get Taller here because that would be very good for the Scorch and potential lineups with Mahaka Mail and all sorts of things. So
down goes the first Viper Witcher in this round, taking down the Battering Ram. Considering it's interesting because I guess he thinks the Battering Ram is a bigger threat, especially considering how the Battering Ram with 2 crewman spots can actually chain onto Viper Witchers and get extra kills. That Bloody Baron has not received a single buff. Where is his vodka?
It's
damn.
He's got nothing left to lose. Interesting. Oh, he's going to go for Hensel. Now, he does have 2 of these still, and so he's going to get the value.
Good timing.
He's going to finally kill something here. So at
there's your vodka.
So there's a little bit of vodka for the Baron, and now, now at least he can't get denied. Like, having Hensel be low value or denied in some situation is like basically Hensel's the worst nightmare. So at this point, he's going to have so much reactivation with the Siege Master. He's going to get so much value. Playing those Siege Masters, developing more of the crewman bookends the machines are looking for to get extra value. With that Reinforced Ballista in between Ronvid and Henselt, every Siege Master is going to get the full value, plus set up an extra pocket for the Battering Ram and the last Reinforced Ballista that's in hand on top of that. And, you know, he has value in the Scourge. Ultimately, I think Bloody Baron may actually get up to about 16 or so.
Yeah, potentially. It's important to note that while TailBot is 34 points behind, we just saw one of the strongest plays from Adzikov go down.
Yeah.
And TailBot is packing a lot of power in hand, as we see Kahir into Thick Calvate, which got buffed to 11. And we also see the likes of Vilgefortz and Vesemir right there. The thing to point though is that these Viper Witchers are missing out on a little bit of value because there's just not big enough targets to hit.
It's interesting. He went for the Reinforced Ballista on the end of the row as opposed to the one that was in between the crewmen.
Yeah, that's weird.
Because that one's already set up for Siege Masters, and Siege Masters can be set up for even more value in the future. Adzikov was hovering over that as well.
Yeah.
You know, it could be minute the way I'm looking at it, but I always
Well,
look
he
at,
would also create a pocket too on top of that because he's yet to play like his other battering rams. So
it's true. I mean,
it
the
could
Siege
also-
Master themselves are crewmen, so I'm probably just off on that one. But
No, but it's a good point. Like it makes sense, yeah. And here we're gonna see another vodka for Bloody Baron right there. Two vodkas.
2 shots.
2 shots.
Hope you're playing the drinking game at home. Actually, don't. That would be very unhealthy. Bloody Baron can handle his alcohol probably better than most people.
Just such a bad influence, Dave.
Terrible
Yeah.
influence. TailBot's got his own drinking game started here as well because he's trying to set up roast for the Mahakam Ale here. So it's
all about the
2 really rowdy parties about to get started here as Adzikov is in a really commanding position as far as points.
We're seeing him hovering down over that Viper Witcher right there. Gonna probably set it up. He needs to set up those 3 rows because he needs to get value out of the Macameo right there, as he does hit the what was that? The other battering ram, right? Yeah, he's definitely fearing the battering rams more, as they can chain, like I said, on these Viper Witchers and deal 5 damage and then potentially like lead to more value overall, as reinforced ballistas are more standard in that approach, as in the amount of damage that they do generate basically. As the first Siege Master hits the board and damages the first Viper Witcher by 2 hits and the second one by 1.
It's interesting. There could have been a situation there, and again, I'm sure Adzikov may be thinking 1,000 steps ahead of me here, but with the Viper Witchers both at 5 and Mahakam Ale in hand here, it's possible that there could have been a Scorch lineup at 9, potentially for Adzikov, but I don't think Adzikov is worried about not getting Scorch value, knowing that Calvet's going to come back at 11, potentially, and the Mahakam Ale could potentially make that even bigger and better. But I also don't really know. That probably was the best play you could have made there in any situation. Plus, it does set up those 2 things are going to get killed next turn here. But here comes K here anyway.
I think you have to go for K here. You know it's very likely your opponent's playing Scorch, especially because TailBot is running Henson himself and a pretty damn similar list, which also runs Scorch as well. So he's very aware of what this deck runs, and he's trying to avoid that. He does have last say, which means that he can go for his Joaquin play the last, and he can also dictate what Joaquin is going to pick, as this John Calvate here. This thick Calvate will provide him with the knowledge of what's on top of the deck. And I believe, I didn't get a good glance on it though. Was it another Slave Driver? Because if it's a Slave Driver, that's the best option, as it will just go up as an 11, right? Even though he has to be careful because he can't line up 2 11s. Otherwise, Scorch will get 22-point value there. Like the big play here for TailBot is avoiding that Scorch value, as we see a big discrepancy in points here, though. Like 19-point lead for Adzikov right now.
Yeah, I mean, TailBot, and I mean, Alchemy in general has such burst at the end of this, but because this is a longer round 3, it's a little bit different here.
Yeah.
You saw Adzikov actually taking out the battering ram on TailBot's side, as opposed to going for more than 1 kill there to buff Bloody Baron a little bit more. It's possible that he wanted to deny any situation where Slave Driver was going to get Siege Master, which would give the extra deploy effect for the battering ram, which could take out some of his crewmen. So that's probably just long term a little bit better for him. Plus, he still has a couple of ways to still take out those tiny units.
Oh,
man, we've seen a lot of Necrat coming out of Black
We've seen this play a lot in this tournament, actually.
Yeah, Blood Moon. It's huge.
That is a lot of damage. And it also disrupts the crewman from Ronvid, as Ronvid would randomly spawn now. And if Ronvid spawns back onto that row, it will take the hit again, and it will not be available for him for a few turns. So it's gonna be interesting.
And you don't want to play your machines on that row either for the crewman, because
so good.
You lose a little bit of extra value there. So it's like you're playing for the extra proc, but you're not really getting that extra proc because you're losing the 2 as well. I mean, you still get double crewman here, but you'd sooner reinforce. I think he still has a Siege Master he can reinforce out. You'd sooner do that and just reactivate and heal the ballista, and then create the crewman on the ranged row or the melee row.
Yeah. He's going for it anyways.
Well, if in the battering ram's case, as opposed to the reinforced ballista, the battering ram's case, you get enough value to justify it. Ron Mid, see you, buddy. Hello and goodbye.
Oh man, that really. So he didn't end up going for the Siege Master there. He went for the battering ram, taking the damage. That Blood Moon, getting so much value right there. That was a very, very solid Black Blood. As we see there, Ronvid the Incessant, fighting for his beautiful maiden, resurrects on a random row with 1 power on turn end, and this repeats every single time at the very end of the turn. But of course, if he spawns onto the Seas row, there is a Blood Moon going on there, and that deals 2 damage to every unit placed in that row. So we could see Ronvid just going back and back again in that row and just never returning.
Just like an unending hell for Ronvid. just dying over and over again.
Don't follow the light!
Villager Fort's coming in. We're going to see what it was on top of the deck there. This is oh, no.
Villager Forts will proc Bloody Baron, by the way.
A little nice extra matchup bonus here for Adzikov as he's in a pretty strong position here.
As you go, ooh, that does give him the Scorch. That does empower Scorch on top of that.
Scorch getting a little bit better. Also, Joachim's going to create a pretty strong target as well. Actually, if Joachim grabs a Viper Witch, that's going to be 2 15s on the board potentially. Unless I missed the fact that there are no Viper Witches available. But
no, I believe they're not. They're not actually, because 2 of them have been played from hand, and the other one was played in the prior round. We see 2 of them in the graveyard. So there's no Viper Witcher pull. I believe it's Slave Driver, honestly.
Well,
so he's here for the Scorch now. He's going to take the 15-point Scorch here.
Not bad.
And he is, okay, and there goes Ronvid, which does give the Reinforced Ballista a nice place to drop onto and not have to take the damage right there.
Because you're probably looking to take out those 2, well, they're 1 strength now, but they may not be at the end of this turn here. This TailBot has the option to play the Mahakamael. Adzikov is in a nice point lead here. Villager Forts is a huge play on top of Joachim.
And Joachim as well.
I mean, these last few plays from TailBot are pretty massive, and he has the extra card on Adzikov. So.
That's the thing. That Mahakamael is going to make it so that he's 1 point behind, and so they're basically almost tied. And then he has Joachim onto Villager Forts, while we see a nice 16-point play from Bloody Baron, which could be potentially 17. But after that, it will be 17 at least.
Interesting choice.
But after that that Reinforced Ballista is what, 11 points? Oh, this is tight. I just don't think that'll be enough for Adzikov. I think he's gonna get outpowered here.
It's just putting Cantrell in just in case.
And he returned, he returned Cantrell right there. Oh, he's too much.
Well, yeah, this is just too much. It's just way too many points. That Blood Moon was so important.
That Blood Moon was so good. Important. So that gave so much value, and also like even after being played, it's the first time I see like Blood Moon actually get more value throughout the match. As we see Bloody Baron go down,
Joachim that's going to cover this here. I'm pretty sure that Viper Witcher is going to come down here.
And he plays it on the Blood Moon. That's beautiful. Synergy. Go Synergy.
It's going to be the Slave Driver.
And the Battering Ram onto
beautiful.
that. Excellent sequencing by TailBot, taking the game and going 2-1 against Adzikov, getting the Alchemy Nilfgaard win against the most banned deck of the tournament, Henselt. That must feel good.
Made it look really good right there.
Yeah.
I think that was, the Bloody Baron ended up actually getting, 17 points is it's a little on the lower side than you would probably want, but you've got a fair amount of value here. We're going to see Adzikov give it another shot at some point, possibly, unless he opts to go for Alchemy on his side this time around, knowing that he's going up against Dagon. It's a little bit tougher because Dagon is pretty good in the matchup. Looks like Henselt here is going to try it again. This time he's going to hope to get a little bit more value. The Dun Banners didn't make any appearance at all. Except for that, well, not even in that mulligan. And even though things went Adzikov's way a little bit, it wasn't quite enough. This is match point here for TailBot in the battle for Poland.
Now this hand is looking really solid for Adzikov. He has Althor's Double Cross, which will fish out Taller. And this time around, he is going second, which makes a whole lot of a difference from Adzikov, as we do see the immediate pass from TailBot as Adzikov goes for the reinforcement and searches for Ronvid, which is the best you can go for at this point in the match, as it does give you your consistent crewman, which is going to provide you with a lot of extra points throughout the match. It's basically your best carryover play with this deck, as he draws into 2 Dun Banners, though. Oh, that really sucks.
Yeah.
Especially because he's gonna miss out on 4 extra strength, and that's also a card that has to mulligan later down the line as well. It's not like super devastating, but it definitely hurts.
That probably factors in a little bit to TailBot's consideration to open pass. I mean, a lot of situations open passing, you have a deck that goes well in a long round, like Dagon in this situation, so you don't mind playing a long round to card up, because generally, decks that can go long rounds are fine doing the open pass. But it also means that the potential to draw into done banners. It's like in the older days when Dagon ran 3 foglets, because foglets all came out with the fog. You consider open passing because they could brick their draws. And in this situation, that's exactly what happened here. The Guardian, of course, what am I talking about? That was the previous matchup. But having that potentially happen was just that little bit of extra bonus here for TailBot's open pass.
Adzikov opening up with a very high tempo play there, going with John Natalis onto Winch instead of leading off with Towler, which is definitely going to hurt his chances to get the done banners out. But he's going to go for it now after baiting out the weather from him. Draws into the battering ram right here and makes it so that TailBot is 12 points ahead, which means that if TailBot makes a 9-point play or higher, the done banners will go out. But this will also provide TailBot with very valuable information. As the two of them spawn on the deck, it will let him know that one of them is sitting in his hand. And TailBot can counter this with his own spy. And he still has like good low tempo plays as well to make himself with those 2 dows sitting in his hand too. So it's going to be interesting how he opts to react here, as he's going to drop the Frightener immediately onto the Fog.
Yeah, the Spy is fine, I think, because at this point, I don't think Adzikov can play slow enough to trigger the done banner.
Yeah. Unless he plays his done banner.
Unless he just plays the done banner. It's possible. Yeah, that definitely would help.
But it'll make things difficult for him, especially because having that done banner in his hand is very dangerous when it comes to round 3, because if he draws into another done banner, then he will be stuck with one of the two for round 3, and that would be very devastating for Adzikov here. 2 games in a row, we've seen Hensel not being able to get, as I like to call them, the done bananas out, and it really does make a difference. It hinders your draws, it makes your mulligan very risky, and it also makes the deck lose quite a bit of power as well. But these are the best players in the world, and they know what to do to play around this card, and they're always trying to avoid it from triggering, because when the done banner is procced, it represents free 12 points, and it's just really good when it goes off, which is why they all run it, right?
Especially in combination with the Spy, you give your opponent some points and you get the refund right away. It's fantastic, as Adzikov drops the Siege Master because he has one mission here: bleed and go on a killing spree, eliminate as many units as possible. His Baron is already well on its way this time around. And since he's in the driver's seat here, he's just in a little bit better of position just to smoke as many units as possible. Things are already in battering ram range all over the place, and since this is an alchemy, it's a little bit easier to get lower units, especially with Dagon playing things like Foglet, Wolves, lots of things that can be taken out. Plus, TailBot's also removing his own units potentially with Cyclops. Sheetroll of Vergen, I believe, also would proc it as well. So, this is possibly... this could, if this ends up being a close game, it's probably because Baron shines in this matchup.
Or see Reinforced Ballista, I think, target the Archispore to get another buff into the Bloody Baron, and also deny that residual damage. Gonna take the 4 hits onto the Frightener, and gonna buff up Bloody Baron up to 12 strength. You still see that done banner in his hand. It's gonna be really dangerous as he draws into round 3. But the question is, how far will Adzikov be willing to push here? He is focusing on killing as many units as possible. And that's what he wants. He wants a shorter round. He also knows that the Death Wish variant that he's playing against is not Siri Nova. So he knows that his odds are to get him to a short round, but he also has to make it so that TailBot doesn't catch up to him. And because he wants to make sure that he keeps his card over him. And now, that's over in that sense, because we see the Griffin drop down onto Dow, giving him a 17-point swing, and Fog is going to make that harder and harder every turn. It's going to be difficult for Adzikov to just not enable that to happen, especially because Dow is the low tempo play. Once the monster player drops Dow, after that, it's all about the heavy hitters, and it's all about the big swings. So it's going to be interesting to see how far he pushes for the sake of Baron.
Triple Griffin in hand here, and plenty of Dow to go around, as well as the Cyclops to do. So you go Griffin, and then Cyclops to finish it off. And the second Dow, not as useful, but if this Dow were to be destroyed by a battering ram, you can lean back on that one as well. So there is that. There's also, in the short round, though, without Siri Nova, you need to rely on something like Wispus into Monster Nest into Ghoul, or Brewis into Dow into a Griffin if you still have one available, or some way to proc the Dow. So it gets a little bit tougher here. As Hensel being considered and
onto the Reinforced Ballista, yep.
There's going to be a lot of points for Baron here. So many units are going to go down.
Wow. Actually, surprisingly, just three, right? Just two.
I don't know why I thought that was going to be more than 2 ballistas.
Normally,
Ballista.
yeah, and normally like the swings are bigger when you do it with battering rams and such, but Reinforced Ballista is more, it's a safe option, as it's easy for it to provide you with decent value, but it also doesn't get out of control, like for example, ballistas or even battering rams, which can become very, very swingy. Bloody Baron up to 15, which is, decent, but you want more out of it, right? The thing is, TailBot has that sheet roll in hand, and that sheet roll onto the siege row is absolutely devastating.
I think there's no Siege Masters available anymore. I was thinking that there could be a potential for the Siege Tower here, but with the double winch, there's still a lot of possibilities to get some really good units that can destroy lots of units. Like the Trebuchet takes out 2 units. Even the worst machine at this point is taking out units. As you see the Reinforced Treb. So there, exactly here. So probably somewhere on the ranged row here, which would set up future battering rams on top of this as well. Just avoid killing the Dow here. Put these things at 2. The more units are going to go down. A Reinforced Ballista at this point into the crewman kills another 2 units. Baron, probably at the end of this round, Baron's going to be well into his 20s. A strapping young lad.
Which, is strong, but Bloody Baron tends to reach, bigger heights, especially like on the proper, a proper Hensel play. But the thing is, TailBot is obviously playing around that, and I know I mentioned it a lot, but man, that Dun Banner in hand is so dangerous. Like I have a feeling he's gonna draw into one of them. He's hovering over it right
this
now.
Rot Fiend sheet roll though it's pretty big.
Yeah,
this is definitely going to put him in a better position here.
He actually has to be careful with big, powerful plays because he doesn't want to give him the Dun Banners at this point, right? Especially considering, but he's going for it now.
Oh, he's going to go on the melee row instead.
Melee, interesting.
It's possible, yeah. It could be exactly the situation you're talking about here. Not wanting to get too far ahead.
Yep.
Just keeping this close, staying ahead.
Not have the aye, sirs.
Yeah, because at this point, TailBot doesn't know about that Dun Banner in hand here.
This Trebuchet buffing up, Bloody Baron up to 19. But it seems like at this point, it's very unlikely that Adzikov will be able to get that extra card out of TailBot. So Adzikov has to hope for the shortest round possible. And this is easier said than done when you have a Dun Banner in your hand. Having a Dun Banner in your hand makes it so that you have to kind of, you can just play it, right?
Yeah.
But that also encourages your opponent to go, for example, for Monster's Nest and go for the Barbergazi play. Like, you have to be very careful with giving your opponent such a low tempo play because you can get very punished. Because once you drop that 4 strength unit, you're kind of like being like, yeah, I'm just dropping my worst cards. I'm not threatening you anymore. And TailBot can react to that and will punish that if that happens. So Adzikov is in a bad spot, actually.
I mean, really, like Tristan to Winch is pretty good. As well as Bloody Baron being up at 20 plus is pretty good, but being down a card in this situation with TailBot, having the Wispus into Monster Nest, and potentially even more than that,
those 3 golds, Brewis.
It's just like there's
Woodland.
Just so much. I mean, it's interesting here. Woodland not being played in this round. It is, I think, a lot about keeping the score very, very close for TailBot because this is Hensel. You have to take that very seriously. Woodland is a fair amount of, it's a little bit on the lower scale in a short round. Woodland's not as fantastic, but I think it's fine. TailBot's just playing his low commitment plays at this point.
Yep.
He can speed it up a little bit with the Cyclops, throwing a Dow in. He doesn't want to really kill any of his units. Specifically to make Baron that much better. But I mean, Adzikov at this point, if he's considering playing Triss right here, he's considering this is it.
Hovering over the winch, gonna go for the winch right here. We see a ballista, but not really the best.
If he's looking to kill units, it's not great. If he's looking to do damage, it's okay.
He's hovering over it. It still seems to be his best option.
All these 9, there's 4 units here at 9.
Yeah. And he doesn't really want to he doesn't want to bop the Dows because it's gonna give him the breathing room that we were talking about Yeah, I think Will Spurs will go free 100%. Like, the round's going to be short enough. It's not going to be really that impactful. And you also get the last Foglet out of your deck as well.
And honestly, holding Brewis with the Cyclops is fantastic. You bring the Dow back, you throw it with the Cyclops. Oh, this is...
he got the card out of him!
That is huge.
Oh!
It's too bad he has to play one of these cards because those 3 cards go so well together.
Still, the fact that I think you go Tribute here onto Barbergazzi, right? Even though it's such a powerful finisher, though, especially because you have Taller, it's like into Ghoul is too strong.
I think you need to hold Whispers here to combat
But he's
Bloody
running
Baron.
Scorch, though. That's the thing. Oof.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, you do know he's running Scorch.
Oh man, this just got really interesting. I really did not see him getting that extra card out of it, but Adzikov manages to pull it off. And
Especially
TailBot
he's playing so slow as well.
Wow. I think he's going for the carryover. I like this because it's also very dangerous for him to go. Oh no, he's going for the Mandrake
instead.
I like that play.
Of course, Bruce is going to bring that back. Cyclops is going to be able to throw it.
Okay, bravo.
At a giant Bloody Baron. He's going to get the full value for it, plus he's going to get the proc. Well, this is going to be a close one, guys. This is going to be a close one. Let's see those draws. Dunbanner hurts Adzikov so bad.
He draws it. I do it. And a dead Siege Master. Not like this.
Adzikov.
Not like this.
Oh, Adzikov.
Oh, God, the pain.
And look at
I knew it was going to happen. Oh, God.
Adzikov may this could be over at any second, I think, my friends. That is brutal. So, I mean, the Siege Master is 6 points. The Dunbanner is 4 points. Adzikov has a combined total of 30 points in his hand, and TailBot likely a lot more than that.
Yeah, that is so, like...
Brewis into the 12-point Dow and the Arcaspore, being able to throw that Dow. The Mandrake play was great, but ultimately unnecessary. But, you know, it's tough. I mean, you're playing around the Scorch as well. You put the big unit on board. The Scorch just gives, you know, it's a 4-point Scorch. There's a lot of ways why that Mandrake was fantastic. There's the Dunbanner, giving the TailBot a look over the table.
Yep.
My friends.
I mean, on a good note, he's going to get the other 2 out. That's something, right?
He is going to get the other 2
there they are. Yeah.
Guaranteed.
I pass on every 10th round.
You should probably pass it out, too.
Yeah. I mean...
Oh, man.
It's interesting. The Cyclops actually throwing the Dow isn't even like there's nothing. You lose a lot of value. You might as well throw the 6-point Dow at this point, but it's still good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think you honestly just go for the. Well, it's still better to
but the thing is, if you
right?
do that, you're putting 2 11s on the board for a potential Scorch.
Yeah, that's true.
But obviously, Bloody Baron is
likely
more likely to be the last play here. It ended up being actually. You see how important those 2 dead cards there. TailBot. Yeah. Wow. Somebody from the hometown had to take it in this matchup. TailBot. It's going to take it.
Better for it to happen now than the Challenger, right, I guess?
Well, we very well may see this in the Challenger. We do know both of these players are going to be going to Challenger, playing for a little bit of pride and glory here in Gwent Open as TailBot will be advancing to the semifinals. Handshake, GG here. That was pretty good.